So let's talk Survivor, Ed. What are you looking at? I know we mentioned Dolphins earlier. That came up at one point. Can't remember if our conversation was on the air or off. That's my Survivor play this week is Miami laying the 9.5 at Washington. Joe Osborne just brought it up from covers.com. That offense really clicking, really humming, going up against that defense. Eesh. At the very least, we'll see the scoreboard lit up, and I think that favors Miami.
How do you still have Miami available if you've gotten this far? That's probably my question here. Like, Miami has been a massive favorite in several games up to this point where they were almost a free space. So kudos to you to have them, being, here this long. That's impressive. But then also having Miami available, definitely that would be a fantastic pick if that's available to you. I had taken the Dolphins a long time ago, so that's not an option for me. And really, a lot of these favorites we're talking about have been teams I've already chosen in some way, shape, or form. So a lot of these spreads really aren't indicative when it comes to what I can do here in week 13. Now, the way that I built my model for the newcomers here is that I do have circa rules where I make a pick for the Thanksgiving slate of games and for the Christmas slate of games. And so for the most part, even with some of these favorites, I'm not taking them just because I might need them for, say, the Christmas slate, something like that. So that would nullify, say, the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 6-point favorites against the Green Bay Packers. I think the Ravens, that's another team that I've sort of waited upon in terms of when to take them just so I have a backup plan. But as far as this week is concerned, already took the Cowboys, the Jaguars have already taken, so I'm kind of running out of options here. But for this week, it's an oldie but goodie Survivor process. I am backing the Steelers this week against the Arizona Cardinals. I know that's kind of what we looked at in terms of early Survivor week games where whomever Arizona's playing, you take them and you feel good about it. Well, now I think we can return to this process because there's no good reason for the Cardinals to have been blasted by the LA Rams. None. There's no reason that should have happened. So, I have some concerns about what the Cardinals are looking like going forward. And not only that, but the Cardinals all season long, they've just been bereft of talent at a lot of key spots. And over the course of a season, you're going to see that more and more. Kyler Murray, love the guy. I think he can be a top 10 quarterback in the league. He has nobody to throw to, doesn't have the protection, any of those things. And so Steelers should be in good shape there. And also, too, Pat Freiermuth is healthy now. Like, I think we forget that the problems that he experienced earlier in the year, like, now he's starting to come to his own. And now he's in an offensive structure that I think is more tailor-made to his overall talent. And I think Kenny Pickett needs that safety valve. And now that he has it, I think this offense can hum a little bit more. And so you add up all of those options. Yeah, I can understand the Bucks, but without Frank Reich, it's possible that he may have been the problem. So there's too much variance there. But I think the Steelers would make a good play here.
I mean, there's not, as Ed pointed out here, a lot to go on with the Cardinals. And the Steelers laying 5.5. That's an interesting number given their lack of ability to generate offense. I don't know if they win by 6 or more. That might feel uncomfortable for a lot of teams to only win by 3 or 4 against Arizona. But given the Steelers' offense and the way they play defense, that may just be the way this might be another 16-10 kind of game, 16-13 kind of game where despite the low score, the Steelers are in control for the bulk of the day, Ed. And that's what I think the Steelers can score 16 points again this week. And I think people, given how they get to 16 points, could still feel all right about it because it's another baby step in the right direction.
If you still have the Jags available and you've made it this far and haven't used them, they're more than a touchdown favorite. And I think, the defense has been a season-long problem for the Bengals on top of the fact the quarterback is out for the rest of the season. There's just a lot of problems with this Bengals team. I think they're done. Put a fork in them. And I think the Jags are definitely a safe play here on Monday Night Football.
I like the Dolphins minus 9.5. And the reason I like it is the Dolphins offense versus the Commanders defense. This is one of the biggest mismatches In the NFL, we might see a repeat of what we saw last week when the Commanders went in and played the Dallas Cowboys, who also have a fantastic offense. So this is a matchup between the Dolphins, who are second in scoring, versus the Commanders, who are dead last in points allowed. This Miami defense really coming around. They might be better than Miami's offense now. Just 57 points allowed over their last 4 games. Commanders defense, by the way, they've allowed 29 or more points in 3 straight. Miami doing a great job at pressuring the quarterback. They are 5th in pressure percentage. Commanders have allowed the 2nd most sacks. And Miami is not a team that plays down to the competition. Sometimes you got to worry about that, right? But they haven't been taking their foot off the gas in this situation. They beat the Giants by 15, the Panthers by 21, Patriots by 14. They beat the Jets by 21 last week. So, yeah, I like the Dolphins to pad their stats, put up some big numbers here, and cover that number in Washington.
I love the CeeDee and Lamb look. I love Dak over 280.5. It's only minus 113. The one Geno Smith I was looking at is rush yards. 9.5 is the number. He might be running for his life. The only thing I worry about is, could we see some negative yardage for him? That might scare me off of that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'll be honest. What's Geno's passing prop, like 230-ish, 229-ish? I think I saw this morning. And he's averaging 248 over the last. I mentioned the impotence of this offense over the last 7 weeks. They've still let him throw the ball. Now, he racked up a lot in that one game against the Commanders, and that defense is trash. So I don't want to weight the average too much, but like if they're trailing the entire game, if they're trailing the entire game, they're gonna have to throw, even if that's not necessarily how they want to win this thing. If they're down multiple scores most of the night, then Geno's gonna have to throw. And so when I look at passing props, Geno, I'll be honest, is an attractive one for me at 230.5 right now at BetMGM, Ed.
Well, Chris, let me ask you this then. If we all believe that game script is going to tell us that Geno Smith will have to pass a good bit more, which I completely agree with, does that mean we should be stressing rushing yards a good bit more? Because Kenneth Walker is doubtful for this game. Zach Charbonnet, who will probably be the bell cow back, how much do we expect his workload to be? Because I could see the argument going under his rushing numbers. What do you think about that, Chris?
Yeah, 48.5, definitely. I mean, that makes a ton of sense. I don't have Charbonnet's numbers in front of me right now for the season, week by week, but I don't think I have to have them in front of me to look at that one and think, are they going to be able to run the ball against Dallas, even if they want to? And I don't, again, they're going to have to be in a really advantageous position to want to run the ball. I don't see them being in that position. The other thing when we talk about Dak, real quick to bring up, is that Jerry Jones is the consummate businessman. He may meddle in personnel affairs too much for Cowboys fans' likings. He may think he's a whole lot smarter about some things than he really is. But one thing Jerry knows is business. And Jerry knows if he's going to pay a quarterback $50 million a year for the foreseeable future, he's going to find out if that guy's worth $50 million a year. And so they have leaned in on Dak and said, yeah, Dak, you want to be the man? You're the man this year. And I don't think Jerry's necessarily walking into Mike McCarthy's office every single week and saying, no, Dak's got to be the guy to finish teams off. But I'm sure he makes his voice heard. He walks around the Star out there in Frisco, and he lets everybody know what he thinks. And he makes sure Mike knows what he thinks. And he makes sure Dak knows what he thinks. And, he started to lavish some of that praise on him just this past week on the ticket in Dallas, saying, yeah, he's been everything we thought he could be. This is really the best he's played in his career. Jerry is at the point where he's solidifying in his own mind, yes, I can lay out $50 million a year for this guy and feel good about it. And that's exactly what he wanted to see this year. He wanted to see Dak back it all up and prove that he was worth this massive extension he's going to get, Ed.
I think the first thing that stands out to me about that is it's very funny that what we have in front of us is still on the table for Georgia to go 1-2 against Alabama and still win 3 national championships in a row. in the sense of college football hilarity, that's got to be up there on the scale, right? I've got this by, Georgia by about 4, a 60% win probability there. And I think a couple things really, really stand out that are going to be decisive in favor of Georgia here. One, we saw last week, Jalen Milroe was pressured 15 times. Auburn made him very uncomfortable and said, we know you want to run the dink and bomb. You want to hit the short pass or you want to hit something super long. You can't really thrive in those intermediate areas. And what I like about what Auburn did was, just kind of set up and said, we're going to be disruptive on the offensive line. And we're going to make you make those intermediate throws, except for one play that worked out pretty well last week for them. So I think Georgia will be able to create more havoc up front. I think that you can't put too much stock in what Georgia did against Georgia Tech. Obviously, McConkey and Bowers were out. They were, riding a little bit and taking a breather there. I think Georgia will be able to have a lot of offensive wrinkles given that they found an identity with Bowers out and have him back. And I think that their offense will be able to score in a way that they can't. In a way that Alabama necessarily can't. That being said, one thing to really look at here is that Carson Beck has been pressured on only 21.4% of dropbacks there. Jalen Milroe pressured on 40%. So if Alabama, you look at Dallas Turner on the edge, if Alabama can create some havoc, get Beck uncomfortable, he's young, he's inexperienced, he's grown a lot this year, but you can't let him sit back there.